Video 7. The Story of Evil Doug.
Yeah, this is 6. It is 7. It is 7.
No, it's 7.
Yes.
You're 6.
Yeah, thank you.
9 in the zits.
That's part of the game. He didn't just say that as a weird thing.
We have like a character named 9, and we were going to have her have a group. It's weird.
Called the Zits.
Called the Zits with 2 Z's. So when this started
Still
off...
pending. We're not sure.
Yeah. So when this started off, like the original... So I like to either name things impossibly hard and complicated things like Path of Light and Shadow. And then what was the original name I wanted to name this game?
It was just Bounty Hunters? Okay.
Bounty Hunter.
I was like, no, I didn't want to embarrass you.
Bounty Hunter. So the idea originally was we were all going to be different, like people coming to take down bounties, and there was this idea that there was going to be this NPC thing, and the first one that we drafted was a guy called Evil Doug. That was literally his name was Evil Doug.
Yeah.
Evil Doug was in the game forever. So, and we kept trying to push that square peg through that round hole forever.
Right.
Forever. And we wanted this sandboxing where like you're running around and you're doing all this other stuff, but then there's like a big bad that you have to take down that's going to make the world like impossibly terrible. And if the big bad ever gets too far along, then everyone loses the game. So there was this kind of like shared responsibility between the players.
In case it wasn't clear, the big bad's name, it was Evil Doug.
Evil Doug!
As the placeholder for a very long time.
Yes, it was Evil Doug. He was the archetypal super threat, the Thanos of the game. But like what happened with that?
Right. So like we had this system where we, like Travis was saying, like this is the big bad, right? So we had this system where you could like find leads, and that was like one of the little rewards you can get. It's like one of the little incentives around the board. So you get it from encounters, or maybe you get it from your gear, or doing certain, cutting backflips in certain locations or whatever. But as certain things happen in the story, this little Evil Doug board had this tracker that would advance, and it would have like this impact on the world. And like the more it advanced, maybe if you're in deep with Evil Doug, I'm trying to remember.
It was stupid. I hate it. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. So like,
we gotta talk about it.
We worked on it forever, and it just like I don't even know. You definitely like talked me out of it. Like I this is the type of thing that like I would have like clung to the giant scrap of metal in the ocean and just sunk to the bottom with. So you absolutely talked me off that cliff. Or off that Doug. And interestingly, there is, like, Evil Doug exists in the game as a guy named what's his name?
Dagweft Vile.
Dagweft Vile. So it's like Dag is in Doug, and then Vile's evil scrambled around.
Fun fact, it's a total anagram, except it's several different letters.
Yeah, it's like an anagram with, like, an extra syllable also. Dwagged. So we kind of got away from that, and like what was interesting was like so then the whole notion of bounty hunters, then the characters no longer were bounty hunters, right? Like the original idea was like, oh, this is like a horrible world, like the toilet world. Everyone like bad guys were hiding out here because like they were safe because no one would bother going there because it was far away and it was dangerous. And you were like these different types of bounty hunters that would come here and hunt these people down. And man, the game is nothing like that. Thank goodness.
Right. I mean,
what a terrible idea. It was
bounties.
my idea.
Yeah, we both had we both through this whole process. We worked at this game for coming up on 2 years now, and
we actually started. We talked about flicking. Remember, we were like, "Oh, you have a guy, and like he's got a bazooka, and you like flick him, and a marble shoots out of his bazooka." And like, I mean, we were really like trying to figure out. And then I was like, I just want to make a sandbox game. Mm-hmm. I worked on a couple of sandbox games. They're really fun. I want to make another one. I want to do like a big. Total, like I think the word gaudy was the thing that I used. Gaudy.
Well, we kept the gaudy part in the game, didn't we?
Thank gaudy we did.
Yeah. Well, there were throughout this whole process we've been working on a long time. We've killed a lot of darlings and things that weren't so darling. We've just killed a lot of things. What was your least favorite of them?
Of the things that we got rid of? Man, like now that you're talking about that whole. Like the big bad thing, like that whole lead system was just annoying, obnoxious.
The leads were terrible.
It was dumb. It was really bad.
It was just points.
And it didn't feel like. So the thing now is like the game, like definitely like there's like it has like a feeling of presence and like aliveness. Is aliveness a word?
Sure, it is now.
It's not a word. Aliveity. Life. That's the word I'm looking for.
Oh,
aliveness. Life.
I remember now. Life.
Yeah, but this was just like kind of like this really like bolted on, like it was super mechanical and dry, and that really was like a starting point. Like it really was, and it's interesting because then the bounty just kept like shrinking, and then it went away for a while, and then it got reduced into this one thing,
and then it came back,
and then honestly, like the thing that's cool about the bounties now is like that escape clause, like it's like the escalating value, and then he escapes, and then like something something ridiculous happens, and it's like usually it impacts everyone. So I like that. In terms of like other things, I mean, oh my gosh, like I feel like we didn't have this whole like persona model until
that was late.
Until late in the game. Before, like the factions were just kind of like this nebulous resource that like you would do something and then you would get.
No. Here's what it was. This is my least favorite darling.
Oh, okay.
Was the fact that there were locations that you would go to get jobs. The jobs would send you somewhere else, and they would send you somewhere else to turn them in. Oh. And it was just this long, like, Rube Goldberg machine of, like, doing nothing to get, like, just some amount of returns.
Yeah.
it was just a nightmare.
Yeah, inconvenience as a mechanism. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What else? We had contacts. You remember the contacts?
Oh yeah, I still liked that idea.
Yeah.
And like it's weird because my original idea was that there were 3 that were out. Mm-hmm. They would change the game each time they would come out. But this is a much more clean and stripped down version. So like there is like a little bit of a ghost of that idea in the final execution,
as there often are, right?
Yeah.
Now the contacts started off as these tokens that you would get as a reward for doing different things or having certain encounters. Like maybe if you have this encounter and you like befriend someone from the cartel, then he's like, "Oh, thanks, pal. I'll be your contact." So you get this little contact
That's
token.
exactly what he would say.
Yeah, right. That's specifically it. You get this little token and you slot it into your board. You hang out with it, and then as you interact with one of those places where you get jobs, you can like turn in contacts to like look at more cards and like get more jobs at a time.
Ooh,
right. It was the worst resource.
It was super boo. Like one thing we always had was the gear cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was like first iteration. Like we learned to pirate from Concordia early on.
Stop doing that. And we knew we were going to have locations. We didn't know exactly what the locations were going to do. It was actually, we had a really hard time actually coming up with a variety of locations, and then once we started, like we hit a good amount, we kind of figured that out. Man, this the whole the scrapyard vending machine button jamming was like a problem through the whole game. So players want to get stuff, right? Because the stuff makes them powerful and fun and different. And so how you get stuff is you have to go get money to get the stuff, and how you get the stuff is you go to the scrapyards. And so we used to just have where you just go to a scrapyard. So what do you think every single person did on the first round? Money. ATM machine. It was like that thing like where you'd see like an indulgent office party and they're standing in like a glass case and there's like an air blower with money flying around and you're just like grabbing it. Yeah. Like, that's your bonus this year, Todd. So we had that going on, and
that was a war. Like there was an all-out war on like how we should address that problem, and
I just said, forget it. Who cares?
Yeah.
I was just like, just let it happen.
And I was like, hang on, Travis. This is very important. We have to think about this.
Yes.
There's a means-end structure, and we have to make sure they're unified. And
what is this voice? You sound like a Simpsons character.
I'm trying to make fun of myself.
Oh, that's you?
Because I was being a big nerd.
Well, and then the solution was super simple, and it is great. Like, it is a good solution. There's a little bit of physical tedium to it, but
But it adds an extra opportunity cost to Todd getting his bonus, I guess. So it just makes it a little bit harder to grab the money. But when the money is right there beside you, it's like, ooh, now I kind of want to do this. And now it's a nice little shifting framework there, right?
But Mike, if you had to guess what my least favorite reward in the game is, what would you say it is?
In the final version?
Yeah.
Least favorite reward
the most boring reward.
Ooh, I don't know. I know what it is. It's points.
Yeah.
Every time I try and put points on something, I'm like, yeah, this is really good. This is a really significant thing that you're doing here. Why don't we give him a point for it, Trev?
No. No way.
Points, boring, but the points are just like, it's just background noise. You happen to accumulate points as you play the game and do the fun stuff, and then suddenly you just have a bunch of points.
I'm a work hard, not work smart kind of guy. So just giving me a victory point instead of making me
right.
Dive through a plate glass window into a kiddie pool full of piranhas, it doesn't feel right unless that happens. So, I mean, we had different things, like the visions came in really late. Like we needed one of the factions to have a resource centric thing. Mm-hmm. And now I love them now. Like at first first it was kind of like, do we need this? Like, you know,
nebulous. Didn't have an
yeah, it was like a
identity.
nebulous. It didn't really have an identity. They started off like the transponders. Like we wanted to have a thing that was like a real cool random, like something that was a reliable. They had half of it was reliable, half of it was random as hell.
Yeah.
And that became that. We wanted to have like a gambling equivalent. Oh my God, the Cantina. That was another one that we just.
We had 100 versions of how to gamble.
Yeah. It was like we tried to do space craps forever, and it just didn't work.
We knew we had to use the dice and the tower, but how do we use them?
Yeah. These are all interesting things. Oh yeah, what about my insistence for the Fungalite?
The Fungalite in this game, it's absurd because I think a designer that had sense would have cut them long ago, and we fortunately do not have sense. So they're in the game. I don't have sense either because I love it. But like the Fungalite, if I'm explaining the rules of the game to you, I'm not even going to talk about the Fungalite. I don't even care.
Because it might not even come up.
Right. It doesn't even do anything. So like as you play, something might say like, "Hey, take a Fungalite. Just get one."
I'll take one
And then
right
like, sure, take one.
I'll take one.
But all it does is it reduces your maximum health up to a point. So you can't, you're not going to drop yourself to a point that you can't play the game. But like, you can have a certain amount of Fungalite on you, and then. But aside from that, like you don't even need to know about it. You don't even need to know that it exists. And a lot of like weird, like vestigial things exist like that in the game.
Like infamy. Infamy is just a thing that you gain, and it just means like you've drawn attention to yourself, and ultimately it's actually just bad. Like it says that it's the only reason a player would really ever want to fight you. Right. And then suddenly you'll see a card will be like, wait, what does this card do? Every time I roll, I get +1 strength for each infamy I have. I have 4 infamy. So wait, every time I'm rolling a die, I get 4 infamy, and then someone goes, what the hell did you just say? You're getting +4? I'm going to go beat the crap out of you. And then if they do, then they get legend, they get rewarded, and then you get melted down to your 1 infamy. So you always get stuck with like a minimum amount of it. So there's a lot of things in this game, like you don't care about them until you do. I say that all the time. Right, yeah. All the time that comes up. Even like the spoils, like we wanted to have these factions, and we wanted them to feel like they're a part of the story because they kind of like, they give like, the characters are outsiders, so when they come into this world, they need to have people who are dug in, who are kind of in charge. And we had it took us a really long time to figure out how we would tell that story through a sense of mechanisms. But we found a way, right?
Yeah,
we found a way.
I hope so.
Even the legend loop, like I feel like that was around for a while.
Yeah, Legend Loop's been around for a little while.
That's Tracks.
Yeah,
Track this. That's my nickname.
It is.
I don't know. I mean, I have certainly, like, I've worked on a lot of games, like 4. And this one, I learned, like, I will walk away from this with, like, a fanny pack of new ideas. Like, designers, I mean, we've talked about this. We kind of lean into these things that we know are tried and true. There's mechanisms like simultaneous action reveal is like my favorite mechanism of all time. Like, it's crazy that you could just like flip a card over. What? You know, you did the same thing I did, you monster. And like I love that. And I use that wherever I can. And we used to have. Oh God, what about your stupid? I just remembered the thing. What was it called?
Which one?
The thing where the card where like we agreed to be friends.
Oh yeah.
And you just would not stop. What was it called?
Like, all right, I was trying to like draw.
What was it called?
Parlay.
Parlay.
Yeah. I was trying to draw from like Cosmic Encounter, where there's like that moment where if you encounter each other, then you can be like, oh, we're going to be friends, right? We can both reveal this and get a certain bonus together. But then if you reveal like something else, and it's like a gear you play to sort of fight or whatever, if one person reveals and doesn't, and if both people do, and it's a neat little subsystem. But for a sandbox game, like we had to make a lot of cuts, and like things that require you to learn rules and be taught things. Like there's already so many of them, and that was one of them. Also, it was dumb too, so we're just gonna tuck that down. But
what about these guys?
Yeah. This is another thing that, like, if I'm teaching the game, I don't even talk about this.
Sure, but it's necessary, right? Because the game is escalating, and the characters, you get more powerful throughout the game, and there's no real way to know how powerful or how quickly. Like there's a general speed limit on how quickly you're going to get up to maximum speed, but the game has to push back against you, and we didn't want to have all these like ridiculously complex rules. So this was Mike's really simple solution. It's really good.
Simple. Yeah. But no, like, I mean, we mentioned earlier that as you get victory points, You're playing the game and you just happen to get points as you go, right? So like that's kind of the metric of how far you are into the game. As you fight these non-player enemies, you're gearing up more. You have more options in your hand. You have more flexibility. You have more powerful weapons. And then if the NPCs don't push back, then you're just gonna stomp them. Like you absolutely crush them. So as you go, you're adding in these little dice here that are going to be extra in addition to whatever else they're rolling based on your position on the VP track. So maybe they roll these couple extra dice, and these dice have more critical faces. They also have the chance to like explode certain tiers and just remove all the dice, because again later in the game there's so many dice, and it's like, why don't we just remove some, right? And it's like a neat little sneaky way to kind of reduce the little arithmetic over there, right? So yeah, like I mean that was something we added in pretty late, and then we were like, yep, that's the thing.
Yeah,
and it's dumb, and it's just.
But it's gonna be expensive too, because it's like more cost. Like it's another die mold. It's like another custom component. But it's good. It
fixes a very specific problem.
Yeah, in a fun way too.
Yeah.
And like it's someone's like the first time that comes out, and that exploding like dice nuking thing happens. Like, what the what? So that's good. So we have to ask each other a question, and we didn't at the beginning of this, just very stupidly and irresponsibly did not discuss what that question would be.
Ooh. So my question is, what question are you going to ask?
Do you love me?
No, I do. Yeah, I mean, obviously. No, sure. No, I mean, we've been creating this and being vulnerable around each other for years now. And
this was a really neat thing, because like you said something the other day that I thought was really kind of cool and touching. It was like it's a big achievement for two people who have a tendency to creatively steamroll other people have managed to walk through this entire project, and there's both of our little fingerprints on most of the stuff in there, while we still like figured out a way to do like a distribution of labor within the project, which is a really cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, almost every element in this game has some place where I pushed and Travis pushed, and it landed in the middle, and we both really like where it's at.
Yeah. Which is rare.
Yeah. I think like my background, I'm more of like a mechanical designer. Like my credits are like Flotilla, which is a really mechanical game, like just very very deterministic, and like a lot of just, I mean it's a point salad game basically, right? And like that's kind of my style in general. Whereas you started off with like Infamy and like Heroes Wanted, and like definitely like top down design with like just cool bombastic moments, and like us just like smashing together in this small space was that was a weird phrase.
It was great though. No, like I mean genuinely, like it's a cool thing to be doing this for almost 12 years and be like, I'm still learning, right? That's awesome. And I don't really want to learn, because I just want to like just do things.
I just want to be good, rather.
Yeah, I just want to have fun and like be told how great I am. But like I'll learn. That's fine. So if you said here's my question to you. It's impromptu. Okay.
All right.
If you learned, what was the thing that you learned that, like, an important lesson you learned from this project? Like, what do you walk away from this project? Because now here we are. This is the 7th of the 8th videos, and the next one is going to be the one where we like start talking about money and stuff. So in this video, like, here we are. We've gone through this. There's still some more work to do, but we've gotten like a really big hard part out. We've crossed the Rubicon into the going to the finish line territory. So what did you learn?
For me, the biggest lessons that I learned in this were how the moments in the game, and in a game like this, the moments that players tend to gravitate towards the most. So as we created these little things, as we kind of sampled out all these different ideas that we talked about, there were certain ones that players gravitated towards, and certain story moments as well. And in testing and in demoing the game at conventions and stuff, like just seeing those like things that are coming up, and people like say, oh, right? And like just learning, like oftentimes it's not what I expected,
Yeah.
How about you? What was your big lesson?
My thing was a personal thing, actually. Yeah. It was a personal. So I think I've always gotten to be kind of the creative director on projects, and I've just had people kind of nodding their heads and agreeing with everything I said, and told me how brilliant and cool and weird and other things. And like the scope of this was so giant that there was no way that I could actually like accomplish all this. So I needed your help. I really did. Like we had to depend on one another. So I remember there was times where like you were like, hey, and then there's a guy, Eb and I, and I'm like, what are you doing? They're all girls. You're mad. But over time, like you started to kind of create things within the context of the world, and I started to really like those things, and like I kind of felt my white knuckle grip on the steering wheel release, and like just like yesterday as we drove across the country to get here to do all this stuff, we kind of found a middle ground. Like we found a way to do teamwork. So I trusted you, and like I had to go like, hey, this is a shared vision. I can't just say like all of my ideas have to be in the game. Some of my ideas, I'm happy. So many of my ideas are in the game, but like you absolutely, like your contribution to this was impressive, massive, and you added like you added a lot of voices to this that I would have never even considered. So I'm very grateful for that lesson, because it was a personal lesson too, to trust in my collaborators and my teammates, and know that we could get together and do cool stuff.
Yeah.
Was that too emotional?
It was a little bit weird. I feel generally uncomfortable with emotion. So,
Okay.
but overall, we did a good job.
Yeah, man.
Made a good game.